Well, folks, it's a wrap. It's hard to believe, but the high school is over, and the high school baseball season, of course, is over. And this is the Curtain Call podcast, and it's going to be our season wrap-up show where we're going to highlight the state playoffs, which wrapped up about 2 weeks ago. I was there in Fort Myers. Wear my shirt there as representing, so everyone see. Got the state championship. Went to Fort Myers and got the hat for the FHSAA. It was a great run. It was a great run, and the Man on Second YouTube channel. We're going to have obviously a lot of content moving forward, but the 2026 high school season has officially come to an end, and what a season it was. Needed about a week or so to recover, kind of get caught back up after spending a full week in Fort Myers, which hat tip to Fort Myers. They do a great job. Hammond Stadium, which is the spring training home of the Minnesota Twins. It's also the minor league home of the Mighty Muscles of the Class A, low Class A affiliate for the Twins. But Fort Myers does a terrific job. I went with Andre Fernandez, my good buddy from the Miami Herald. I've done some work for the Herald, so follow my work there. Follow Andre, follow the Herald. Read their story, subscribe if we were in South Florida. And we spent the full week, and we had South Florida, meaning Miami-Dade County and Broward County. We sent 8 schools. We came home with 2 state championships. Went 2-2 in state title games, and the other 4 teams lost in their single elimination semifinals. For clarity, for those who aren't familiar with Florida, the high school baseball state playoffs in the regional semifinals and finals were best of 3, but in the state championship, or the state playoffs, as they like to call it, it's really the final 4. It's single elimination. Really can't do. I know I've seen some comments saying, "Oh, I can't believe Florida doesn't do best of 3." I guess you could do that, but you have to start everything much earlier, because you do best of 3, everything's going to be there a lot longer. Your risk of rainouts are higher. Plus, the school year's ending. So there's a lot of factors in there, so it's a single elimination format. But we'll dive in, and we're going to kind of focus on the teams that made it. We'll start off. Classifications are the highest level is 7A down to 1A. There is a rural class in South Florida. We don't have anyone that qualifies in that. So my focus here is 1A up to 7A. 8 teams total, and that's because for 7 classifications. That's because in 3A, North Broward Prep is in Region 3, while everybody else in Broward, but the people that qualified were in Region 4, which that's more of the middle of the southern part of Broward and into Miami-Dade County. So in 3A, you had Miami Springs and North Broward Prep representing 3. But let's start off with the champions, because they happen to be the 7A and 6A championships. We're going to dive into that, and no better place to dive in than Stoneman Douglas Eagles. Congratulations to the Eagles, 6 in a row. State record. They already had the state record with 5, may have had it with 4, but they've won now 6 in a row. It's completely unheard of, and in doing so, they got by Hagerty, one of really good traditional programs. Riley Green, Detroit Tigers, went to Hagerty. Zach Eflin, the pitcher, he went to Hagerty. There are others that are in the big leagues. That Vaughn, I forgot his first name. I think he was with the Braves. He's, I think, with the Angels now. Shortstop. He played at Hagerty. So this is a loaded team. Oh, I think Ryan Mountcastle of the Orioles also played at Hagerty. So very proud traditional program. Obviously, Stoneman Douglas, proud traditional program with Jesus Luzardo, Anthony Rizzo, Roman Anthony. The list is growing and growing. And probably soon, Devin Fitzgerald, in a couple of years, the son of Todd Fitzgerald, their legendary coach. He's tearing it up in now the Washington National system. But I digress. So great matchup in the semifinals. But this is where Todd Fitzgerald, who had 7 or 8 state titles and some national titles mixed in there, he rolled the dice, and he said it was the players that did it, because Fitz has kind of been one of those, and most coaches are. You roll your ace out in the semifinal because you don't know in a single elimination if you're going to get to the title game. So That's what makes it fascinating at this level, that sometimes in classifications, the semifinals are really the most compelling game. And, you could say the state championship, because the championship game, sometimes it's that there's a pretty big drop off from your ace to the other pitchers that are used. So he rolls the dice against Haggerty. Like I said, a good program, but keep in mind, in 7A, you had Venice, which I believe was ranked number one in the country. I'm not sure it's unanimous, but they certainly were the number one team in Florida in all classifications, and I believe number one team in the country. So Venice was the powerhouse. They were the expected winners. They were the expected to dethrone Stoneman Douglas, and they are awaiting in the state title game, assuming both win the semifinals. But Fitz decides to not start his ace, and he goes with Gio Rojas, who's their ace, who's, to me, cemented himself in the top 10 picks in the first round, maybe the top 5. Without doing a complete deep dive, but certainly established himself as the best, I think, high school pitcher overall. Some may narrow it down and say best left-handed high school pitcher. However you want to slice and dice it, Gio Rojas is a very special talent, and we're very blessed to have covered him. And he's a great kid, just a remarkable athlete who's it's just such a joy to watch and cover through these last 3 years for Man on Second. I covered the big leagues for 20 some years, and this kid is clearly going to be a big leaguer. He's an exceptional talent. But what happens if they don't beat Haggerty and Gio doesn't pitch at all? Because you have about 30 scouts sitting in there wanting to see Gio, because they're wanting to see if they're going to draft him, and where they would draft him and all that other good stuff. So the scouts are there to see Gio. Without any guarantee Gio will pitch. But this is what they do. And Fitz said he talked it over with the players, and they kind of suggested it. I guess Lorenzo Laurel, Florida commit, he's like their analytics guy, and I guess he plugged into probabilities into ChatGPT, and he came out with a formula that their best odds of winning state were with Gio pitching against Venice in a title game and letting the rest of the staff handle the semifinal game. So Fitz said to his guys, I paraphrase, he was saying that he told the guys, okay, he goes, Fitz said, I have a bunch of these, 6, 7, or 8 or already had in his pocket. He said, but if it doesn't work out, you guys have to have my back. You have to be accountable, because we're making this decision collectively. Well, I'm staying at the hotel, and they did a great job at the residence right there in Fort Myers. And through my week stay, the various teams are showing up, and some are staying in my hotel. Well, Haggerty happens to be they happen to be staying at my hotel. So I'm in the lobby waiting for Andre to get a ride to the game, and I see some Haggerty parents come in. Obviously, I know they're Haggerty because they're wearing their shirts, and they're talking about the game. And I hear one mom telling another mom who was their friends from another team that was staying. They were checking out as Haggerty's checking in, and goes, yeah, I hear this mom say, because obviously it's the mom saying it, this is what they're thinking in talking about as a team. But the Haggerty players, I guess, and the team's sentiment was, it's going to be tough to get to the title game because we got to get through Gio, but we think we're better than Douglas. And if it was a best of 3, we would beat Douglas. So I hear her essentially saying that sentiment. And I'm kind of laughing because I know Douglas. I know they are so resourceful, and you never can count them out, because they can win a shootout and they can win a close pitching game. They can win 10-9, 9-8. They can win 1-0, 2-1. And so here it comes. They get out to the field. They're not aware of it until the lineup's written. And I had heard rumblings that they may go with Gio in the championship game and not Gio in the semifinals. Well, what happens? They go with Reed Daddick to start, holding Gio, having him still DH and hit fourth, having Gio not pitch. Well, where I'm videoing, and some people, if they had the footage there, and I have a ton of videos up from state, the shorts I shoot, and the game recaps, you can see me there. And in those day games, sometimes I'm under this umbrella, right in the corner behind home plate, just tilted a little bit to the right, to your left if you're from the center field angle, a little bit or right of if I'm looking out to center field from home plate, because that's the best angle that I find for my videos. And it's so hot, and so I have an umbrella over me. I'm hunched over. I'm videoing through the fence. So the Haggerty people are right behind me, and they are not happy and feel completely disrespected because Douglas doesn't start their ace, Gio Rojas, against them. And I think they put up 3 in the first inning. So they're feeling real good about themselves. And they're like, so this game goes, I think Douglas countered in like the third inning or second or third inning, but they got 5 runs. So Douglas goes up 5-3, but then the lead flips back in favor of Haggerty. And then reliever, they put Tyler Sturtz back in relief, and he does a masterful job after inheriting, I think, bases loaded. Like the first pitch, he gets ambushed, gives up like a 3-run double or triple, whatever it was, but gave up 3 runs. But he stopped the bleeding right there. I think it ended up being about the time 7-5-ish, something like that, without having the line score right in front of me. And so Douglas has to chip back, which they have a way of doing. So they tie it up, and then they get to the 7th inning. They're the home team. Douglas is. They're the higher seed. They're the number 2 seed overall. So they end up getting a situation where they can walk the game off. But with 2 outs, Jackson Taylor, the really good catcher, he comes up. He had really come up big. Now, it's interesting because Jackson's very talented, but the numbers weren't at what you had expected. So he was hitting, I believe, 9th. So they're probably thinking, number 9 hole hitter, even though I believe he's a North Carolina State commit, that, maybe they're got a little bit of a breather. But he had come up big with some very big hits earlier in the game. He gets up there with two strikes, or excuse me, 2 outs. I think he did have 2 strikes, and he gets the walk-off hit. So Douglas does their part. They win 9-8 in a nail biter, a game that easily couldn't have, when you're in that tie game or you're down a couple in the late innings, no guarantee you're going to pull that out. But Douglas is Douglas, and they do so, which sets up the title game. Venice actually, they didn't exactly dominate either. They were losing. I forgot who they played. I think it was Vero Beach, but they were actually fell behind like 2-1 or 3-2 in the bottom of the 5th. So like Vero was like 6 outs away from the big upset, but Venice rallied and won that game. So sets up the heavyweight title match, the game everyone wants to see. I believe it's Saturday night. And here's Stoneman Douglas going against the number 1 team in the country. And they roll out Gio Rojas, who just did Gio things. In the first inning, Cade Raleigh draws a walk, which a really good long at bat, which obviously you want your leadoff guy to see pitches, get on base, and preferably he did. They get their golden opportunity to get the bases loaded. Gio's up, and he squeeze bunts on his own. And I'm videoing this, and I wonder because it took a couple of seconds for Cade to score. Normally on squeeze bunts, if it's a suicide, he's going on on the pitch and banking on the bunt. But Gio did it on his own. He gets the bunt down, and then Cade scores. So it's 1-0. So with Gio on the mound, sometimes 1 run, an early run is all you need. And Gio, much to his credit, because a lot of we're in an age now where pitchers and athletes are protected. They are commodities. They are a brand themselves. They got futures. They got college opportunities. They have potential high draft status, and they may not want to play in a state championship, or they may be under very strict, I'm only going to throw a couple of innings, or this, that, and the other thing. But Gio wanted no part of that. He's a competitor. He wanted to compete, which also in the evaluation process, scouts and teams like to see that. Who wants the ball in the top? Because you can't just kind of baby your way up into the big leagues. Gio takes the ball, does his thing. He goes 6 2/3 innings, 12 strikeouts. Now that 1-0 lead is holding all the while. And we get to the top of the 7th. I asked one of the dads who was sitting next, a couple of seats over. I said, they're looking for Gio, obviously, to close this out and win 1-0. But he's at 98 pitches. Now, you can't throw more than 105. 105 is the cap. He can't go higher than that. He's at 97. So he had 7 pitches to work with in the bottom of the 7th. Well, good for Douglas. They they add a run on in the top of the seventh, and Ander Eliaraga drops a squeeze bunt again, and that scores the second run. So Douglas goes up 2-0 with 2 runs on squeeze bunts of all things, and now can Gio hold it, and can Venice with the final at bat get a chance? First batter, he did like foul some balls off. Gio strikes him out, but he worked him a bit. Next batter does a check swing and just kind of hits this little blooper right to second base. Raleigh catches it. Now 2 outs, and there was a little confusion. Was that pitch 104 or pitch 105? But as it turns out, it was pitch 105. So Gio, they go out. They all hugs, and Gio has to come out of his final high school game at 105 pitches, 6 2/3 innings, 12 strikeouts. I forgot how many hits. There weren't many, and a couple of walks, 2 or 3 walks, and they have a 2-run lead. They bring in Ben Bianchi, big right-hander, who's pretty much been their closer all year. Ben gets up there. They put in R.J. Shields, I believe it was his name. I think they pinch hit him, but left-handed hitter, Mississippi State recruit. I think he's a junior. He'll going into a senior year. I think takes like strike one, or takes ball one, takes strike one. Third pitch, hits a rocket to right field. I don't know if the ball's landed yet, but it's a home run. And it was until that point the first home run hit in the high school tournament. And obviously Gio's out of the game. New life. They got a run. They made it 2-1. Venice fans are going nuts. The Venice bench is going nuts. The energy's there. You got to wonder, is Ben going to be able to? All he has to do is get 1 out without giving up 3 runs, or at least 2 to send it extra. He's already now given up 1 run, and that run was, that was. I was stunned how far that kid hit the ball. So he kind of regroups, and took Ben's credit, and kind of shook it off. Went after the next kid pretty aggressively, and then he blows strike 3 past him. And then the celebration, and everyone goes nuts, and Stoneman Douglas wins their 6th. Now, I have a little video here of Gio, and you can see the left-hander, you can see the swag, you can see all he brings. Just so hard to hit. He's got that fastball up to 97. This year, I think it was up to 98, 99. I think someone said he was 93 to 97 on this day. Obviously, plenty good. Sliders and fastballs that look like, obviously you could see, maybe that was a changeup away. I don't know. Let's see. Let's say, boom. Yeah, it might have been a fastball or a changeup. I don't have the clearest angle, but obviously this kid could hit his spots. He gets a lot of swing and miss. And then, Jackson, saying a little something to the batter. Gio pumped up. They end the inning with a strikeout. But folks, this guy, take a good look, because this guy's going to be pitching in the big leagues. Good Lord willing, for everything and health and so forth. But this kid is an elite talent, and again, it was a complete pleasure to cover this kid. He's an unbelievable talent, unbelievable competitor, and to Stoneman Douglas, just say a team that knows how to win, a team that is committed to winning. And they do a lot of things really right. And so congratulations to Coach Todd Fitzgerald. I know the family's going through a lot right now, the team as well. Our thoughts and prayers are with Stoneman Douglas. And but a terrific way to end the season. And, just that's kind of what you like to see, a team that the coach trusts the players, that the players wanted that trust. They go in there with the mentality, we have to win 2 games, not just we're happy to get there. And, if they go to win it all, they don't go just to be there. They're in that stratosphere. So their best way of winning 2 games was holding Gio for game 2. And it certainly worked out. And so, hey, hat tip to those with the guts to do it. And then the players to back it up and do that. Let's take it now down to 6A, because the St. Thomas Aquinas Raiders, congrats again to them, Joey Wardlow and staff. and the players, the parents, everyone, the organization, the administration, back-to-back state titles, both times beating Gainesville Buchholz. I'm sure Buchholz is not going to like seeing, and both times Buchholz was the number one overall seed. So in that title game, St. Thomas was the visitor. Then Buchholz had the benefit of the last at bat, and this was an interesting year for St. Thomas because seeing them so often as I did last year, they were really an explosive offense. This year, offense still more offensive. Offense kind of carried them. They didn't have the firepower they had the last few, at least last year. But they had Nico Sabatino, who is unbelievable talent, Appalachian State bound. Brady Bucksbaum, South Florida. Jaden Overspike, who would be going to Calhoun College in Birmingham, Alabama. Those are kind of their leaders. And still, though, hitting had kind of carried them. If you looked at the box scores and the final scores of their games in the regional finals against Southridge, they were like 15-14 or whatever it was. It was the shootout type of games, not pitching games. And so what you're kind of expecting is St. Thomas going to show enough pitching in this tournament. So semifinals, they roll out Julian Diaz, and Julian pitches a masterful game, and it was pitching and timely hitting that carried St. Thomas to the state title game. And once they got there, Joey Hendry pitched a masterful game against Buchholz, and that's why they won. It was pitching. And so that's the thing with baseball. When you think you have it figured out, all these people think they have it out. I've covered the sport for many, many decades now, not just a few years. At the highest level, at the big leagues, when you think you have it figured out, that's when the sport bites you, and you see the complete opposite. So pitching really did the job. The guys I mentioned before, the Sabatinos, the Bucksbaums, the Overspike, they do their thing. Paredes does his thing. I thought hitting wise, I thought Jake Carruthers had a great state playoffs. Some very timely hits, and Mauricio Clement also came up huge. Good for him. I think he's a sophomore going into his junior year now. Super job by them. St. Thomas, again, they're not just a football powerhouse, and they've won 7 or 8 in a row in football state titles, but now baseball, they are certainly there. Just the class of 6A, and great job by the Raiders. So those were our state title teams, and they were both from Broward County. Now, just a refresher for the other two schools from Broward County that went were North Broward Prep and American Heritage, from Plantation. The 4 schools from Miami that went were True North Classical Academy in 2A, Schoolhouse Prep 1A, Miami Springs 3A, and Matter Academy Charter 5A. It didn't go so well. Let's go over now down to 5A, because that's probably the most disappointment of from the South Florida schools. Is I thought, and I'm sure that's a game that hurts. That I'm sure they feel that that this was their year again. They won it all last year. They returned so many players, but it just was not meant to be against Tallahassee Lincoln. They just were off. They defensively, I think they made 5 or 6 errors in this game. Now they were dealt some bad luck, kind of mid to the halfway point or second half of the season, when Steven Gonzalez, a really good right-hander, and I've talked about him on the podcast before, he suffered an injury that he just wasn't himself, but he was game enough in relief to try to come in and help out. You could see he was just really the velocity in a fastball wasn't there because he's dealing with stuff, but he was just trying to get sliders and just compete. And he got a ground ball that went under the glove of shortstop, and it just resulted in 2 runs in the bottom of the 6th inning after Matter took the lead on Brian Mesa's home run. And so it was just a tough game, I'm sure. But again, it just shows how hard it is to repeat. Even though I thought Matter had the best team, I thought they were better than Lincoln. It was funny because Lincoln was in our hotel, and when Andre and I got back to the hotel, because these games they ran pretty late, especially a couple of them because we had like 3-hour lightning delays. So not much open. So we brought back McDonald's, and about midnight we're sitting there, and there is some of the coaches from Lincoln, and Corey Fuller. Football fans may remember Corey played at FSU. His son Chase Fuller is the shortstop and closer for Lincoln. So he was there. We kind of conversed with them. Congratulations to Lincoln because they went on and won it the next night. For Matter, it just again it wasn't their night. It's as plain as that. But also a hat tip and congratulations to get there again. Really hard to repeat, and that takes us down to 4A because we saw in 4A American Heritage, which has been they had been to 3 straight title games, won 2 of them, defending champs. They went in. This is one of the more interesting games as well. In 4A, they got Heritage just really struggled hitting all year, pitching, elite pitching, but the offense just never really got it going. They had spurts, they had moments. They certainly had talented players. They also had a bunch of juniors that are still going to kind of find their stride. That mean next year should be pretty good, at least from the offensive standpoint. But they face Bishop Moore out of Orlando, and a day game, so it's going to be super hot. And Heritage is in a little bit of the same boat as Douglas is when they're thinking the class of 4A is Tampa Jesuit. They were the team. They're a powerhouse. Their team has won state titles in recent years. Heritage went back-to-back years with them, like a couple of years back, where they beat them one year, then lost to them the next year in the title game. Then last year, Heritage won it all, but not against Jesuit because Jesuit got upset in the semis. So Jesuit's back, hungry to win it again. They got Caden Wechter, who's the son of former big leaguer Doug Wechter. He's like a draftable guy, throwing like 96. So they have him, and they have another kid. I think it's Wilson Anderson, I believe is his name. He's another kid who throws 95, 96, and so they're set up nicely to semifinals and finals because either one of them is going to be a headache for the opposing offense. But obviously, you got to beat Bishop Moore to get to Jesuit. So Heritage decides to start Brady Snow. And we got to take a minute to talk about Brady Snow because he's a kid who is really, his stock has risen. He will more than likely be a first, second, maybe late first, second round, maybe third. I'm guessing. I don't know for sure. But, these are the type, if he's drafted, it's going to be there because otherwise he's just going to take the NIL and go to the University of Florida. And Brady's, he goes to first inning. Gave up a walk and a hit. It wasn't his cleanest inning. Sometimes that's the thing with Brady. At first inning gets to be a little rocky, and then he settles. If you can't get him in the first inning, usually you always hear that about pitchers. Get them early, or you won't get them. The really good ones. Brady was in that ballpark. He gets David Saladino, the catcher, picks a kid off second, which is a big moment. But he gets a strikeout there with a slider. I think he threw 15 pitches. I asked a scout or two that were there. They said 97. He hit 97 3 times. So Brady Snow does what he's supposed to do. But here he is at State, and he gets 1 inning. Then there's no rain. It's sunny, and they announce lightning is within 10 miles. So we are under a lightning delay. Everyone head for shelter. Well, 3 hours later, we're playing again. But what does Bruce Avon, the coach of Heritage, do? He's like, I ain't risking it with Brady Snow. Pretty much after the first hour, that was kind of it. He wasn't going to bring the kid back. But this sets up a very fascinating situation for Heritage because if they beat Bishop Moore and Brady's thrown 15 pitches, it could almost be a blessing in disguise. They get Jesuit the next day, they could go with Brady Snow for whatever the difference is, close to 80 pitches or whatever the number is. But they could get Brady Snow against Jesuit, which is a great equalizer against a great lineup. Mason McGeehan comes in. And this is where maybe the gutsiest performance in state by anybody. Because Mason's not supposed to pitch. He's going to be the guy who draws Jesuit. And Mason is no slouch as the number 2. left-hander who had a real feel for pitching, mid-90s-ish fastball, who is, I have to talk to his family again. I'm not sure if he's officially committed somewhere else, but he's been fighting for a commitment and really having a very good year. And in terms of competitiveness, in terms of pitchability, in terms of just knowing how to get guys out, Mason McGeehan proceeds to throw 8 no-hit innings, no-hit, no-run innings. He comes in the second inning. He exits only because of pitch count, because he got up to like 105 after 8 no-hit innings. He had a walk or two or hit batter in the, was that take it up to the 10th inning? To the 10th inning. And then Enrique Santos, Kike, comes in. He gets out of that inning. Now, they're the visitors there, so they could be walked off now, which would have been tragic if Mason was the losing pitcher, but they get out of the 10th inning. But Heritage just didn't hit again. It was one of those things where didn't even have many opportunities. I think they were held to like 3 hits. So this is a 0-0 game. But on the flip side, Bishop Moore only has like 3 hits, because they got a hit off Brady, and then they got a hit or two off of the relievers after Mason left. So now we get to the bottom of the 11th inning, and Bishop Moore scores on I think a hit batter or 3 walks, or a walk and 2 a hit batter and 2 walks, or 3 walks. One of the 2, I think it was 3 walks, and a hit by pitch. And Heritage's season and shot at a repeat ends 1-0 to Bishop Moore. But it was again, Heritage a great year to get there, because for 2/3 of the season it looked like this team was going to struggle even to get out of district play or regional play. But they had elite pitching. Brady Snow, a real pleasure to cover Brady. Looking forward to what's next for him. Mason McGeehan, I'd covered him 4 years. Really looking forward to what's next for him. And for the returning players at Heritage, it's going to be a lot of fun seeing them, kind of patch it up and try to achieve their goal. Again, like Matter, really hard to compete to repeat. So let's take it down to 3A. As we're going to kind of wrap this, we're going to speed this up a little bit. North Broward Prep did a masterful job. They win their semifinal. Jack Rostock, a great pitcher. I think NC State, another NC State commit. A great job in, I think he went the distance, which is what you want in the semifinals. They might, they won 4-0 that game. That was a very methodical game. They were in control. It felt like a higher scoring game in terms for North Broward Prep, but they literally just kind of exerted the amount of effort they needed. And I sounded wrong. They put a lot of effort in it, but it's almost business-like. Like, we're taking business here, and we're saving our energy and focus, and we're seeing super focus on beating South Walton, which they were the monster in 3A. And so they get by the semifinals to get it to South Walton. Let me flip it over to the other semifinal, because you have Miami Springs there. Defending state champs. They beat South Walton in a heavily favored South Walton team the year before, and they get and win it all for Miami Springs. Miami Springs, they got Taylor and Chetta had 2 hits and a double, like an RBI, but South Walton wins that game 6-2, and so they get their revenge. Now they're getting. And again, very hard to repeat. Springs won it last year. Great comeback. I think they were 8th seed in region, and they got there. So, great job to get back to the state, to Fort Myers. But again, very hard to repeat. So South Walton now heavily favored. They have they in the semifinals. They throw Coleman. What's Coleman's last name? Borthwick. I always mispronounce it. Borthwick, Borth Wick. Coleman, big kid. He was throwing in the semifinals 93-99, but he's also like a third baseman too, or DH. Big bat as well. Auburn commit, but this kid, if you're throwing 99, a lot of scouts looking at him. I could see him being drafted in the top 2 or 3 rounds. So that's a kid who definitely could be drafted. Now, in the title game against North Broward Prep, they go with Denton Lord, who's like 6'8", thin kid, but 6'8", Mississippi State commit. But this is another kid who goes like 97. So that's why I thought South Walton was outside of the South Florida teams, even with Venice. I thought South Walton was better than all of them. This kid was very effective, yet North Broward Prep showed so much guts and resiliency and grinded out at bats. They were down 5-2 in the top of the seventh, 3 outs away in the title game, and they rallied back and tied it up. But then were walked off on a squeeze bunt in the bottom of the seventh inning, so they lose 6-5. South Walton wins their first ever state title. But South Walton, they had those two big boys as their pitchers, but like Alejandro Cabral, who I've known for several years, he told me afterward they faced Gio. The North Broward Press has faced Gio, so anybody's ace isn't going to necessarily be that good, even though they are pretty darn good. Alex Smith, a junior who's shortstop, left-handed hitter, uncommitted, but at the event, I'm not sure if he's still uncommitted. But he had two really good. He had like a double and a triple off Lord. Showed bat speed. He was all over them. Was intentionally walked by them. And one of my scout friends said, and I'm not going to divulge the school, but an SEC school contacted him and asked about Alex Smith immediately after seeing that game. So this is the kid really has kind of put his name on the map. But Marcus Hall had a great championship game. Caden Coleman, he pitched in relief of Zach Tavares. Julian Rodriguez, a really good catcher. I mentioned Jack Rostock in the semis. North Broward Prep, congrats, man! You guys showed a lot of guts and deserved a lot of credit for an amazing performance and really close to winning it all against a team that was really, really good. They take this down now to 2A. This is fun. And I'm really happy for their coach, Adrian Nieto, True North Classical Academy. During my days covering the Marlins all those years, 2 stints Adrian was in the Marlins system in 16 and in 2019. Adrian went to American Heritage. He was on that national championship team, I believe, in 2008. You remember that team had Eric Hosmer on that team, and Coach Fitzgerald was coaching Heritage back then. But what Adrian has brought to True North in 5 years, I think the program's only like 5 years old, is an identity. And that identity is small ball, but not necessarily just in the sense that they have like no power hitters or they just have to, but they rely on athleticism, smarts, aggressiveness. And Adrian had like over 10 years or whatever in the minor leagues as a catcher. And he did have some big league time, I believe, with the White Sox. And what he has done, I think he's only like 36 years old. He has established himself. He didn't, and I told him this, we had a conversation because they got to the state title game, which was an upset in its own right because they weren't supposed to beat Berkeley Prep, a really good team out of Tampa, in the semis, but they did with William Foss pitching a masterful game. That was another game that had almost a 3-hour lightning delay. Noah Gamboa, I love that name, and a good player, 3 hits. And then overall in the state title game, they draw Trinity Christian Academy out of Jacksonville, which another powerhouse team that their whole lineup is Florida, Alabama, Georgia, like 4 guys. Everybody on their roster is going to a Power 4 school, if not drafted. And they're playing them. Now, this is where it kind of hurt True North was that second day arm, the pitching against that lineup and Foss, doing his part to get him there as an ace. They were just at one arm there, but they fall behind 3-0 early and tie it up. Matthias Fisher, really good player. Cash Ojeda, the table setter, Evan Alexander. I could go on and on with their players, but this team will bunt. They will hit and run. Everyone bunts against Berkeley in the first inning. Their cleanup hitter squeeze bunts. Adrian's he calls the pitches. He brings young energy. They just play collectively, and they are a very dangerous team for teams that might be one-dimensional. And that's kind of what you don't necessarily see in high school. You might see really good players. They play a good pitcher will help you win. Obviously, middle of the order power, that type of stuff. It's hard to establish one identity because there's turnover. Kids now transfer and kids graduate, so you're constantly looking for a formula. But Adrian is developing baseball players. They're athletic. They gamble on the bases in a good way. I just put up a video a day or so ago of a short a um, of a delayed steal run with a runner on second against Trinity Christian Academy. This team has, like I said, a bunch of D1 guys. It's he's on second. I forgot his name. Danilo. I forgot his last name offhand. I apologize. He's taking his lead. The shortstop is like right behind him. Third baseman's in, anticipating a bunt. So he's already kind of on the lip of the grass. So he's in. The guy on second can see this. The pitch is taken, the guy squares, so everyone kind of moves in more. He takes the runner on second, just kind of does a kind of like bounces out there and then pauses just momentarily, looking at the catcher's eyes, and takes off for third. Meanwhile, the shortstop, and you can see in the video, shortstop doesn't go over to cover third. Third baseman doesn't backpedal immediately after the take. And the catcher just takes it, pauses a half a second, throws the ball into left field, anticipating that the third baseman's going to back up. No third baseman there. So the kid just doesn't slide to third. He just tags third, and he takes off. He scores. And that's the type of stuff that Adrian Nieto's team did, which was creating fits on teams that they really make you focus on bunt defense, assignments, knowing where you are. Another prime example was in one of the games, either the semifinals or the finals. Guy gets on first, and they're anticipating this guy who can run. So the team is saying they're probably going to steal. So a lot of times, an obvious steal, they may go on first pitch. Well, they throw a first pitch strike. So to the pitcher and the defense, perfect pitch out pitch now because you already got a strike in the bank. Maybe he tries to go here, so they pitch out. The runner just stays at first. So now two pitches, the guy doesn't go, the guy doesn't bunt. So they're not wondering, what are they doing? They're not bunting, they're not stealing. They're not going to pitch out in back-to-back pitches. Kid takes off, steals second on the third pitch. Which, as I was telling Adrian, I said, you were lapping that coach. Like, you weren't just out coaching people. You had them having no idea what you were doing. And that's the type of stuff. That's the winning baseball. That's the type of stuff that is so fun to see high school kids execute and just having the awareness. And you could just see the energy and the energy from the fan base and the students were immense, especially in that title game. There's, this is a 6, 7, 8,000 seat stadium. So if you get 1,000 people in there, it's a lot for high school games. Sometimes these day games, or I think it was a day game, or 4:00, whatever. Long delay. So it's hard to bring energy, and they brought a ton of energy. And again, congrats to Adrian, congrats to True North. They got to the title game. And this is a program that's definitely on the brink of building a powerhouse. And so that's now down to 2A. We'll wrap it up with 1A, Miami's, Schoolhouse Prep. Schoolhouse Prep, congrats to them. I saw them play against American Heritage earlier in the year. I thought they were a very athletic team. I thought they had some really good players. Keep in mind, this team went 17-16 on the year. They get to the state semifinals. And they face St. John's Country Day, which is another powerhouse. And unfortunately for them, they lose 5-0. They gave up a run the first, 3 in the second. They seemed the moment, at least early, and maybe they're a little butterflies, but they kind of regrouped. They didn't hit, but I thought Angel Delgado, their starter, even though he went 5 innings, he gave up like 3 or 4 earned runs, struck out 4. I think he has a good arm, but that second inning just kind of put them down 4. He gave 3 runs that inning. It just kind of made the comeback going to be a little harder. But, that's a program just getting there. They're going to see what it takes to then. So congrats to those guys. don't do a ton of coverage of them, but they definitely put themselves and their school on the map, as do all these kids. And again, my thanks to everyone. Man on Second is going to keep rolling along now. After we put this to bed, we're going to kind of get more into the summer stuff. I probably will do some separate type videos highlighting players that potentially could get drafted, uncommitted players, give them some publicity, give the scouts a chance to see some of these guys. But again, my thanks to all these schools for how they for all the support they do for Man on Second, and how kind they treat me out there, and the friendships I made with a lot of the fans and the parents, and many of them are going to be moving on, and I thank them and cherish the times we had, and I'll be following their kids and on the next level. And it's a real joy. But again, the goal is get to state, man. It's so much fun. That should be all these teams. I know a lot. It's only not everyone could get there. So for those who did, cherish that moment. For those that are going to move on to play college ball or above, just really good atmosphere. I highly recommend people go to these. If you're in other states and your state tournaments are going on, give them a look, because there's some really good players, and they play a very entertaining style of play. So again, thanks again for everyone. Please like, subscribe to the channel. This is the Curtain Call podcast on the Man on Second YouTube channel. And like I said, now there's a hype feature. I need to mention that. And there's a chance for buying merchandise, which I attach to these videos. If you're in the market for maybe baseballs or bats or whatever, if you purchase them if you see it on this link or any links on my channel, that does help support the channel, helps me be able to go to events to cover costs and so forth, pay for gasoline and among other things. So again, thanks to everybody. Congrats to all 8 teams that got to state. Obviously, congratulations to Stoneman Douglas and St. Thomas Aquinas for winning it all. Congrats to every one of those players. I hope that the experience was everything you thought it would be. Baseball, it's a way of bringing people together, and as a Man on Second channel is doing its part in that, and while providing recognition and exposure, because trust me, the pros, the colleges, they're following this channel, and I appreciate that as well. So with that, that will be it for this episode of the Curtain Call podcast, where you've recapped the 2026 high school playoffs that pertain to South Florida teams here in the state of Florida. With that, thanks everyone for tuning in, and we will check everybody out in the next